So, welcome to the Secure Dynamics TechCast with me. Today, I have Ross Young. Ross is the CISO at Caterpillar Financial Services Corporation, but also I have to read out the rest of the things that he does. CISO at Tradecraft, podcast co host, SANS instructor, Johns Hopkins University instructor, and creator of the OWASP Threat and Safeguard Matrix. I think it just about covered it.
Yeah, I'm very active in the security community and love giving back and teaching and helping others.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I can see that following you. So one of the things that jumped out is this whole threat and safeguard matrix. And for the viewers, I just want to kind of highlight. Think of it as a full matrix with the five functions and safeguards of identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. And on the vertical axis, the vectors of phishing, ransomware, web app attacks, and vendor and partner data loss. So it seemed very impactful when I first saw it in terms of, okay, what do I need to look out for and what is the threat vector? So where did you first get the idea for this, and how surprised positively have you been by the outpouring?
So I was stepping into my new role here as CISO at Caterpillar Financial, and I started thinking about, well, what do I really want to do as a CISO, and how do I really protect? And I think there's this spectrum of you can focus and do a lot of risk focus and focus on the threats, and you're seeing a lot of that with FAIR and other standards today. And you also have the requirement to meet all of the compliance, the NIST CSF, the ISO, the PCI, all those frameworks. And what I wanted to do is how could I do the best I could with the limited resources I had? And as I started reading and researching all the different frameworks, Sunil Yu's work, the cyber defense framework, really struck out to me. And he has different technology layers on a vertical part of the matrix and the NIST functions. And I liked it, but it was really focused on how do you figure out your portfolio versus I wanted to have something where I could tie back to the biggest threats to my company and how I was going to build a defense in depth plan to solve that.
Got it. And it was interesting also to see when you posted that on LinkedIn, people giving their comments. So it seems like a very active and thriving and evolving landscape as well, right?
Yeah, that was probably my most successful post on LinkedIn. I had well over 30,000 people,
Wow.
viewing it and commenting on it. So it really got a lot of traction, and it was very humbling that I could post something that would get a lot of visibility. So I knew I was onto something when I was building it.
Great. So the other thing, again, you're a podcaster yourself. So I was kind of going over some of your podcasts with Mark Hardy that you started the CISO Tradecraft. And it was interesting because you talk about how it allows a listener to kind of grow up the ranks to become a CISO. And there's not a very many ways that or many avenues for people who want to like how do I become a CISO? I mean, so how did this come about, and how like again going back and you've done 19 episodes literally I think on a monthly basis. What has been the learnings along the way in terms of viewership, but also uh, how you choose topics and how this came about?
So, what we found was there was a lot of focus on here's today's cyber highlights, or here's what's happening at the board leadership level. But I didn't find there was a niche being fixed where you have folks who are in those first line leadership roles. Maybe you're a branch chief or a division chief in a cyber organization. And how do you take those director type folks and senior managers and take them up to the executive level? We have a lot of things where we send folks to very technical training classes like SANS and others in getting AWS certifications. We also have some pieces where it's like, hey, here's a Dale Carnegie and some soft skills, but nothing that's really specific for the CISOs waiting to be, right? How do we really grow that trade craft? And so I noticed that and I reached out to G. Mark Hardy and he's a SANS instructor. And we said, this is something where we both felt that if we spend a little more time, we could really help improve the cyber industry for so many, is because the leadership should start up at the top, and you got to bring those people up there, right? And they're coming from all these different paths. But how do we build this competent CISO who has the technical skills, who has the political savviness, who has the hard and soft skills, all those things that you need? And so what we try to do is we try to change it up every week. And in some weeks, we'll have a technical one. So it's, here's how to secure the cloud. Here's how to combat email security threats. But then we also have the technical CISOs that we need to bring up their softer skills. So here's how to influence. Here's how to lead a team and have good management style. So it's really a mix of those, in addition to providing just what's a lever that you could tap as a CISO. So maybe we're going to talk about IT governance and how that can be a tool in your toolbox to really allow you to achieve your vision as a CISO.
Great. So talking about, you mentioned a few things over there, talking about culture and needing to navigate the political situations. But one of the things that jumps out is SolarWinds. And again, I'm not going to talk about the the Orion and things like that, but really about the culture. So whether it's the former CEO of SolarWinds or the current CEO of SolarWinds going up and actually publicly shaming the intern, talking about SolarWinds 123 as the password. And to some degree, I mean, it kind of defeats everything if you see this is the kind of leadership and somebody in somewhere, I mean, it's an intern, it's not even a full-time employee being tasked with, okay, you're the reason SolarWinds happened. So talk a little bit about what happened in the CISO community when this kind of thing started to play about. And again, this was obviously at the governmental level, but also in terms of how does a CISO and or a vendor react, because breaches will happen, right? And we have tabletop exercises, you have all of these other things, but mentally, how does a leader step up to the plate when something like this happens?
So I think we saw a lot of very one-sided opinions, which is we don't agree with this way it's going forward. Real leaders take the blame for their folks, and they give all the praise when their folks do good things. And just look at this as an example, right? Sure, that one intern was the one who committed this horrible password that should have never have been there. But if you think about it, what training did you give the developers when they came into the organization that says, here's our standard for secure software development? Okay, when that developer checked in his code, where was the peer review from that code to say, okay, this is a legitimate change and everything looks good? Okay, when you did that, where was your testing, right? Did anybody try any brute force testing or web application scans against your systems for common passwords, right? There's all these little checks of what you could have built into a process that would have prevented this thing from happening. So to quickly just bash a person is the wrong thing, instead of focusing on what are the processes we can improve upon so that we don't have to worry about the next intern committing the same problem, but we fix it at the root cause.
And great takeaways. I think hopefully there's lessons to be learned across the community for learning from these kinds of mistakes. One last question. Again, I pose this because I held a vendor background for a long time, and it was always a question in terms of how do you approach a CISO. Now I've been out of that for 2 years, so I have a much better understanding. But for the listeners and viewers, right, as a busy CISO, what sorts of vendor outreach actually gets Ross's attention so that you feel not obligated, but you feel intrigued enough to maybe respond back to him or her?
Okay, I'm going to tell you what doesn't work, and then I'm going to tell you what does work. If I've never heard of you and you send me a LinkedIn invite that says, hey, Ross, would you like to sit down for a 30 or 45-minute discussion call? I'm not going to answer that. And not only that, but if you're a business development person, I'm probably not even accepting your contact in LinkedIn. Now, what does work is if you make a 2 to 3 minute video that says, here's what my company solves, the why, And then it shows what we do that distinguishes ourselves from all the other competitors, right? Now, what do I have to do? I watch a 2 to 3 minute YouTube video that tells me about your company. And that's the amount of attention I'm willing to take from a cold call. And if it looks really good, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask some of my friends, or I might even forward that to my other CISO friends saying, hey, this looks kind of cool. What do you guys think? Right. And so now I've made that video viral for you as a vendor. So don't waste my time with sales calls. Invite me with a 2 to 3 minute video that catches my attention. And if I watch that and that's a top priority initiative for me, I will be in touch.
Wow. Okay. So that's, I think, golden words for vendors listening in, saying, hey, you got to find ways to. I hate to use the word rise above the noise, but really that's what it is, because the din is probably deafening for you and your community. So again, Ross, thanks for that insight, and then looking forward to keeping in touch and future conversations.
Definitely. Thank you for having me on the show. And for anybody who wants to learn more, please take a look at CISO Tradecraft podcast.
Thanks, Ross.